During the hearing, before issuing his decision, Judge Avern Cohn said that the targeting of Muslim Americans at border crossings is analogous to the New York Police Department's targeting of African Americans with its stop and frisk program. I'm also proud to announce that a federal judge has allowed a lawsuit to move forward that we filed on behalf of the Michigan Islamic Academy for the wrongful denial of their right to build an Islamic school on their property in Pittsfield Township. Recently, we uncovered a link between one of the commissioners that voted to deny the Islamic school and David Yerushalmi, who most of you know is an Islamophobe that seeks to demonize Islam and Muslims and to deny Muslim Americans their constitutionally protected right to freedom of religion. We successfully challenged the religious dietary screening process at a jail after a Muslim inmate was wrongfully denied his right to a halal diet. As part of a settlement agreement with the jail, we modified the policy such that the constitutional rights of inmates of all faith backgrounds are protected. We recently settled a lawsuit filed on behalf of a Muslim waitress who was fired from her employment after she converted to Islam and chose to wear the hijab. She was told that she looked evil in her hijab and that she was required to remove it to keep her job. We are lobbying and challenging laws and policies that negatively impact the American Muslim community on a national level. This year, we joined CAIR representatives from across the country and lobbied over 130 congressional offices on issues ranging from hate crimes reporting, the NSA surveillance program, and policies that allow for the shockingly disproportionate number of Muslims that are being added onto the federal watch lists every year without due process. Finally, we're providing legal representation to Syrian refugees that are fleeing the horrors in Syria and seeking protection in the United States. Since the inception of the Syrian Asylum Project less than 2 years ago, we've filed for asylum and temporary protected status on behalf of over 70 Syrian refugees. With a 100% success rate, we've provided for them stability and security and allowed them the chance to start over. The community has consistently been able to count on CAIR Michigan to step up to the challenge of protecting our civil rights and civil liberties. However, our work is not possible without your continued support. Thank you so much for coming out here tonight. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum.
Before I introduce Dawood Walid, I want to recognize some more honored guests that we have today with us. We have Captain Lee Zick and Lieutenant Thomas from Calhoun County Jail. If you could just stand, thank you. We have Judge Mark Summers from the city of Dearborn. We have the Mayor of Westland, Bill Wild. The Mayor of Hamtramck, Karen Majewski. We have State Senator Vincent Gregory, who's also running for the 14th District, Congressional District. We have State Representative Rashida Tlaib. Rashida, where are you? We have State Representative Diane Slavins, also candidate for State Senator. We, of course, have my Congressman, Congressman Dan Kildee from the 5th District. And Congressman Dingle and his wife, Debbie, who come every year, were unable to come because of a death in the family. So the congressman just wanted to say congratulations and wanted it to be noted that they would have been here if not for the death in the family. So next I'm going to introduce Dawood Walid. And I know he doesn't need much of an introduction because everybody knows him as CAIR Michigan, as executive director. But if you follow him on Twitter, you also know that one of the things, that Dawood's passionate about is not just the Muslim community vis-a-vis the general American community, but even about changing issues from within the Muslim community. And one of the issues that he's passionate about, and I think is fantastic, is racism within the Muslim community. So, he's been active on that issue definitely recently. He's a preacher of Islamic faith. He's been an assistant imam before. He's also a political blogger for the Detroit News. He served in the U.S. Navy. He's all over the news on Fox, NBC, CNN, and I usually like watching him on Fox because, obviously it's not the most friendly environment, but Dawood knows how to hold his own. Without further ado, Dawood Walid.
Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. Before I give some brief words, I would like to award someone here, someone that's with us here this afternoon who is a fighter for justice, and I also consider a friend. This year's 2014 Justice Partner Award goes to our brother, Pastor Charles Williams II, who is the pastor of the King Solomon Missionary Baptist Church in the west side of Detroit. And at the same church that almost 51 years ago, Malcolm X spoke at that pulpit and gave his seminal speech, Message to the Grassroots. The same pulpit where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stood and preached, where Thurgood Marshall preached and spoke, and many other luminaries that stood up for the civil rights that we enjoy today. He's also the Detroit representative of the National Action Network that is led nationally by the Reverend Al Sharpton. Before I call Pastor Williams up to recognize him up here on the stage and allow him a couple of minutes to make comments, Pastor Williams stood with us, stood with the community on many different issues, from the tragedy of Imam Luqman being killed by the FBI, to the anti-Sharia fear-mongers in the state, to also when Pastor Terry Jones came in town trying to stir up enmity between the Muslim and Christian communities. We're going to show a very brief clip that features Pastor Williams that was in an HBO documentary that premiered about 3 months ago, which CAIR Michigan was featured in, called The Education of Muhammad Hussein, that was shown throughout the United States and Canada, in which tens of thousands of viewers watched this documentary in terms of how our community came together when haters tried to split our community. If you can roll the video, please. That's not the right part of the video. You have to go back.
Now, brothers, this Islamophobia that is going on, it is not just a problem for Muslims. This is something that we all need to be sharing the same front. It is hurting this country. It was hurting the presidential election when they were talking about Obama, whether he's Muslim or non-Muslim, like whether he's a criminal or not, the way they were saying that. We learned from Terry Jones that generalization is absolutely wrong. We as religious leaders, whether Muslims, Christians, or Jews, let us work together against this ignorance.
My brothers and my sisters, if there's anything that we have to be thankful for to Mr. Jones, is thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for bringing us together. Why? Because we are here to serve. We need to work together for peace in Detroit, peace in the hood, peace in Afghanistan, peace in Pakistan, peace in Libya. We need to work together. And if we walk and we love and we fight together, I have a strange feeling that we won't be in heaven all by ourselves. God bless you.
I'd like to call to the stage now our brother, Pastor Charles Williams II. We'll present the award to you a little later on. The actual award is on its way. The person who had it got caught up in traffic, but.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you again, Imam Dalu Walid, for all of the great work that CAIR is doing and that you're doing. Please give him a hand. I hate watching those videos because, you know, I lost a little weight. I look a little better now. But, you know, we've got a long road to work ahead of us. I also don't want to forget to thank my fiance who's here with me tonight, Sister Angela Elam. I had to remember I'm not by myself anymore. Whether it's an injustice and an attack on our faith, beliefs, cultural background, we've got to continue to fight against those things. Whether it's an injustice of what happened to Mr. Utash, where he was brutally beaten by men who seem to have no hope, we've got to fight against those injustices. We've got to fight against the injustice of what caused the environment for those young men who were driven to the point where they beat Mr. Utash. We must continue to fight against the injustices where there are instances like Trayvon Martin or Renisha McBride or Kendrick Johnson. We must continue to fight against the injustice of Islamophobia. We must hide in our hearts the words of Dr. Martin Luther King: a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Wherever there is injustice, CAIR Michigan, I will continue to stand with you. Assalamu alaikum.
Before I continue, I'd also like to recognize our religious leaders, our imams, in particular, two of my teachers who are here this afternoon, Imam Salim Mukmin, who is the resident imam of Masjid Wali Muhammad, and as well as my Sheikh, Sheikh Ali Suleiman Ali, who is the religious leader at the Muslim community of Western Suburbs, Canton. And as well as the other mashayikh who are here, Sheikh Ali Layla at IEGD, Sheikh Ishaq Samura from Masjid Salam, Imam Abdullah Alamin from the Muslim Center, Imam Mamadou Sise from the Muslim Center, Imam Indao, all of the mashayikh, Sheikh Muhammad Musa, Sheikh Tahir Rashid from Masjid Burhani, Dr. Qazim Akbullah from the Muslim Community Center of Detroit, all of our imams and ulama who we sit and talk to on a regular basis and get advice in terms of how we as an organization can not just deal with the social political issues, but how we can stay spiritually grounded in our Islamic ethics. That's very important. Also, salam to Mufti Hafiz Rabbani, who I also see from IAGD sitting over there as well. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله الطاهرين وصحبه المخلصين والتابعين لهم بخير وإحسان إلى يوم الدين وأما بعد. You all have heard the updates from our president, Haris Ahmed, the accomplishments that our sister Wada Kaleem has discussed regarding proactive steps in the Safe Spaces initiative, as well as our staff attorney, Lena Musteri, and the incredible work that she has been doing, and I'm not even sure if there's another attorney in the state of Michigan who in the past years had a 100% success rate regarding TPS and asylum cases. We need to recognize that. This is a big accomplishment. My duty here in the next few minutes is to shed a little light on some things that you may not know about CAIR-Michigan and the work that we do behind the scenes and work that is not seen in our media appearances like on Fox News, in which Sister Muna was talking about. Within the past year, CAIR-Michigan staffers have spoken to literally hundreds of university and college students throughout the state of Michigan. We've spoken to them in forums and as well as in classrooms, and for the purpose of clarifying misconceptions that are held about Muslims and Islam, but also to these young minds to connect the dots with them between the diseases of Islamophobia with structural racism. And within the past couple of weeks, actually, CAIR-Michigan has spoken to a few classes, and particularly at Eastern Michigan University just recently, in terms of connecting the dots and giving the correct information about our Muslim community and how Islamophobia affects us, but more importantly, what can students do who are not Muslims with this knowledge to get involved in the social justice movement? It's not just talking about things in theory, but also giving some practical steps. And I'm actually happy to recognize Professor Raul, who's with us right now from Eastern Michigan University. I just spoke at her class this past Monday. And the feedback she told me, she said it was all positive feedback. We know that the shaping of minds and attitudes are done at universities because the future socio-political leaders and thought shapers are in Ms. Rawls' class and at Western Michigan University, Michigan State, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and the other institutions of higher learning that we've spoken out throughout the state in the past year. But this education is not constricted that we do just to the broader community. We also know at CAIR-Michigan the importance of training our community and building capacity inside of our community. That our community can, as individuals, when they see Islamophobia, that they are equipped to go and speak in political and interfaith forums regarding the issues that matter to us as a community in a more refined and enlightened manner. Within this spirit, CAIR-Michigan has had a long-stretching program. We are actually the only CAIR chapter in America that has this program called Presenting Islam to Fellow Americans, in which we have literally trained dozens of community activists, from board members to college students, in terms of how to more effectively communicate our issues to the broader public, both politicians as well as faith leaders. And I would also like to recognize some of our partners that have actually helped us. CAIR-Michigan board members and staffers, we've used our expertise in these trainings, but we've also brought in people who are not part of the staff of CAIR that have helped us in these trainings. I'd like to recognize our friend Steve Spreitzer with the Michigan Roundtable for Diversity and Inclusion, who's been a presenter at our PIFTAs, as well as our sister, my friend, my mentor, Haji Najab Bezi, who's also here with us. Earlier this year, we also had a very high-impact program called the Muslim Youth Leadership Symposium, in which we had our young adults in universities all throughout the area that came for an intensive one-day training, learning about the importance of coalition building and also how critical race theory affects how we as Muslims interact with the broader community or the broader society that are in the status quo that are not Muslim and not people of color. This was highly successful program, and I believe that this Muslim Youth Leadership Symposium we had in the content, in fact, instilled some thoughts, instilled a different shift in the paradigm of many of our young people who are actually starting to be in leadership positions right now. We have one of the presenters who's from out of town who actually helped us with this is here today. She was named CAIR National's Muslim of the Year for her advocacy, and she's also a person who works with the national, with NAC, with the National Network for Arab American Communities. I'd like to recognize Ms. Linda Sarsour, who's with us in the audience today. This training that we've done is not just something that is theoretical, the impact that it's had on the ground. We can see real fruit from these trainings, and I will give you a story and then conclude. Just recently, through our monitoring of the media, we ran across a press release in which an anti-Muslim organization called the Clarion Project that we list in our National Legislating Fear Report had somehow convinced the University of Michigan Dearborn to let them have a screening and a discussion on a movie called Honor Diaries. Honor Diaries, on the surface, is talking about a legitimate issue, the issue that there is misogyny within the Muslim community worldwide. But how the Clarion Project framed it, they framed it in such a way that misogyny is Muslim exclusive, and that in this they were putting out Islamophobic frames. And Ayaan Hirsi Ali is one of the producers of this movie, and I'm not sure if any of you know about her and the book that she wrote called Infidel. So when we found out about this through monitoring our media, we contacted the University of Michigan Dearborn. From contacting them, I also contacted another friend and colleague who works in the university who told me, in fact, that this Islamophobic group tried having a screening of this film at the University of Michigan Ann Arbor, and they declined. But the University of Michigan Dearborn, for some reason, was going to allow the screening. From then going through our colleague there, we then began to have conversation with Muslim and Arab student groups on campus. We wrote the university, contacted the university. The students, some of them who were at our Muslim Youth Leadership Symposium, began to organize. And after we raised our concerns in a couple of days, that screening of that Islamophobic movie was quote unquote postponed. It was postponed. And I'm going to have a meeting this Tuesday, God willing, with the Vice Chancellor of the University of Michigan Dearborn to talk about proactive ways of how we can have a discussion about female genital mutilation or spousal abuse without it smearing the Muslim community. I'd like to recognize one of the leaders of that effort, Sister Hanan Hashim, who's with us here today, who is the president of the University of Michigan Dearborn, who helped in the organizing of stopping the postponement, they got the postponement of that film. In conclusion, we do have challenges ahead of us as a Muslim community. We've made progress, but we have challenges. Less than 2 weeks ago, the Oakland County GOP hosted an anti-Muslim speaker with the Thomas More Law Center speaking to an official party platform still trying to push the so-called anti-Sharia law in the state of Michigan. We are in a state that has, as its GOP national committeemen, Dave Ejima, who's one of the biggest Islamophobes in America in the political scene, who's based right here in the state of Michigan, who has the ears and is talking with other people in the GOP across the country, feeding them information about the Muslim community, and including Dearborn, Michigan, who he believes is infested with sleeper cells, falsely believes is infested with sleeper cells. So we have some challenges. But I truly believe that as long as we have people like Pastor Charles Williams II and our friend Steve Spreitzer at the Michigan Roundtable for Diversity and Inclusion, and our other civil rights partners like the NAACP and the ACLU, interfaith friends, working together, our love for humanity and our respect for the Constitution can prevail over those haters and those bigots. I believe with more education within inside of our community, more civic engagement, that through our increased sophistication, our examples in and of itself will be a positive way of decreasing Islamophobia, and I know we can do it. I know that if we morally and financially support our institutions such as CAIR Michigan, that we can have more impact in the courtrooms, more impact with the media, more trainings in universities and in corporations and with police forces that will cut down on Islamophobia. And lastly, and most importantly, I know that with all of your sincere prayers for the job that CAIR Michigan has to do, the heavy lifting that we have to do, that our prayers with God, when they're sincere, they are mustajaba, they are answered. And we know that God says in the Quran, "In yasukumullah fala ghaliba lakum." The Quran says, and if God helps you, who can defeat you? And we know the answer to that, none can defeat you. So please, brothers and sisters in Islam, I'm asking for your support for our organization this afternoon, your prayers, your monetary support, and with all of us working together, I know that we can not just forge a better future for the American Muslim community, but a better social climate for all of the citizens and residents of these United States of America. Wassalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
I'd also like to recognize a few other guests that joined us. Fatina Abidrabo, the Executive Director of Michigan ADC. Fatina, if you can stand and wave, there you are. Also Judge David Turfy. And Hussein Barri, the Dearborn PS Board President. Thank you. So next I'm going to ask Dr.